Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. I'm sure we all have heard the phrase, time heals all wounds. And in some cases that is true, and then in some cases that is not true. It really kind of depends on what type of suffering we're undertaking. If it's something that's like a crisis event, something that happens at one point in time, sometimes that is true, that as time passes on, as we get further and further away from that crisis, we begin to heal and begin to adjust. But sometimes there are things that enter into our lives, different things that we have to deal with, maybe in line with this idea of affliction, things that are added to our life that causes suffering, that as time goes by, it becomes worse and worse and worse and gets even harder to deal with that particular thing, whatever it might be. Job is dealing with that in our reading. As we get into chapter 30, Job has been suffering for quite a while, and it's making it very difficult for him as he tries to relate to God. And one of the things that he's bringing out in the chapter is the fact that God hasn't come through for him. He hasn't answered his prayers. He talks about in verse 16, and now my soul is poured out within me, days of affliction have seized me. And then he goes on to say in verse 20, I cry out to you for help, but you do not answer me. I stand up and you turn your attention against me. There he's speaking to God saying, I pray to you, I cry out to you for help, and you're not listening to me. And I stand up and you don't even turn your attention to me. And so he feels like he doesn't have a voice before God. He feels like God's not listening to his voice and not answering his prayer. And that was adding to the suffering of Job. You know, when something happens in our lives and we're having to deal with something, we can usually deal with it for a day or two, maybe for a week. We might be able to, deal with it and kind of adjust. But as weeks turns into months, and maybe sometimes as months turn into years, it becomes very difficult to deal with a particular thing, because if for no other reason, we've been praying about it, we've been bringing it to the Lord, and yet it still remains, and we haven't been relieved of it yet. And that can be some of the hardest types of suffering to deal with. So what do we do in that particular case? What do we do in a situation where we're afflicted, we're dealing with something that's causing stress or consternation, difficulty, hardship, and it just continues and lingers day after day after day? Well, this is where the words of the prophet can help us. The prophet Isaiah, that is. In Isaiah chapter 40, Isaiah is writing to a people who had been led away in captivity. And they had seen the destruction of their people. They had seen the destruction of the land, and they had been carried away into captivity. And this was going on for quite a while. And Isaiah writes in anticipation of the fact that the captivity, the Babylonian captivity, would last for a very long time, some 70 years to be more exact. And this is one of the problems that they're going to have as they're in captivity, as they're in exile. They're going to begin to question, where is God? And this is what Isaiah tells them. He says in verse 27, why do you say, O Jacob, and assert, O Israel, my way is hidden from the Lord, and the justice due me escapes the notice of my God? Oh, why do you say that God's ignoring your situation? Very similar to what Job is saying, right? In Job chapter 30. He's wondering, why is God not paying attention to me? Where is God? Why doesn't he answer my cries for help? He says, why do you say that? Do you not know? Have you not heard? The everlasting God, the Lord, the creator of the ends of the earth, does not become weary or tired. His understanding is inscrutable. So as time doesn't affect God, it doesn't make him more tired as time goes by. It doesn't wear him out. God is still God. Each and every day, God's strength is the same. His power is the same. He doesn't change. He gives strength to the weary, verse 29, and to him who lacks might, he increases power. Though youths grow weary and tired, and vigorous men stumble badly. As time goes on, you become weary. You know, you can start a journey at the beginning. You got plenty of energy, you got plenty of fuel, you're going strong, but as time goes by, you get tired and weary and wore out. And that's kind of how suffering can be when we're dealing with some type of affliction. For the first few days, maybe we deal with it well, but as the journey gets longer and longer and longer, we become tired and worn out, constantly having to deal with the same problem. But it says he gives strength to the weary. He says in verse 31, yet those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. They will mount up with wings like eagles. They will run and not get tired. They will walk and not become weary. The answer is to put your trust in the Lord and to wait on the Lord. He said if you do that, Isaiah says if you put your trust in the Lord, your hope in the Lord, you wait on the Lord, He's going to renew you. He'll give you strength to keep on the journey. You'll find refreshment in the Lord. As you turn to Him, as you trust Him, as you place the situation in His hands, not so much just so that He'll fix the problem, but that He'll give you the strength and the ability to endure during the whole span of that affliction that you're having to endure. He says, if you'll trust the Lord, if you'll wait on the Lord, you'll run and not get tired, and you'll walk and not become weary. You can go a long ways, remaining strong, remaining faithful to the Lord, keeping your inner composure as you lean to the Lord and trust in the Lord. So if we find ourselves in these situations where we're dealing with something and we're just having to deal with it for a very, very long time, and we've been praying about it and it just lingers and it just keeps on, let's just continue to put our trust in the Lord. Wait on the Lord, and maybe He won't just fix the problem right away, but one thing that He can do and will do is give us the strength, just enough strength to get through today. And then tomorrow, just enough strength to get through tomorrow. And before we know it, day by day will go by, and we'll find this inner strength within us. And when the affliction finally is removed, we'll look back and say, yeah, the Lord carried me through it all. And I was like an eagle with wings that flew above the affliction, that rose above the difficulty, the trial, because I placed my trust in the Lord. Even though He hadn't answered my prayer yet, I just continued to trust Him, and I renewed my strength in the Lord. So these are some things we can think about in these types of situations that we sometimes find ourselves in. So with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.